Yeah, okay. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I'd like to welcome you to the second day of the fifth session of the Committee on Macroeconomic Policy, Poverty Reduction, and Financing for Development. The agenda item number 4, Policy Options for the Future of Economic Growth in Asia and the Pacific, will commence shortly. May I please request all delegates to kindly take their seats. Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I'd like to welcome you to the second day of the fifth session of the Committee on Macroeconomic Policy, Poverty Reduction and Financing for Development. The agenda item number 4, Policy Options for the Future of Economic Growth in Asia and the Pacific, will commence. May I ask you all to please take your seat.
Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. The meeting is called to order. So this morning we shall take up agenda item 4, policy options for the future of economic growth in Asia and the Pacific. As you are aware, the committee document ESCAP/CMPF5/4 has been shared in advance to inform the deliberations of the committee on this topic. And as usual, may I invite the Secretariat to introduce the agenda item. It's a pleasure, as always, to give the floor to Mr. Hamza Ali Malik, Director of Macroeconomic Policy and Financing for Development Division. Please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, distinguished delegates, Excellencies. Once again, warm welcome to the session of the committee. This is the kind of topic probably most close to the line of work that we do in our division. How can economic growth and prosperity be sustained over a long time, or over a long term, and what kind of growth strategies and policy actions are needed for this purpose? This is perhaps the kind of question most finance ministers and their teams grapple over all over the globe. No doubt, Asia-Pacific has made remarkable development progress in the past few decades, with higher and better living standards and considerable reduction in poverty levels. The region has shown considerable resilience in recent years in the wake of series of exogenous shocks and continue to drive global economic growth. But the question is, can it sustain this momentum going forward? The region's traditional export-led, industry-focused, labor-intensive economic growth approaches are under considerable pressure due to intensifying global trade tensions and related uncertainty, technological shifts, and a shrinking share of labor-intensive production in value addition along global value chains. Labor productivity growth is slowing down, and convergence of per capita income levels among Asia-Pacific developing countries and the world's richest economies is stalling. In this context, and building on our ongoing research on the subject, as presented in Chapter 2 of the Economic and Social Survey of Asia and the Pacific 2025, document ESCAP/CMPF5/4 highlights 4 policy ideas for the future of economic growth in Asia and the Pacific. 1. Revive the developmental role of the state to proactively foster sectoral upgrading and productivity growth. Past experiences in Asia and the Pacific demonstrate that proactive state interventions through collaborative partnerships with the private sector and well-designed, effectively implemented industrial policies can play an important role in sustaining long-term economic prosperity in the region. 2. Capitalize on green industries and value chains. They are manufacturing intensive, benefit from economies of scale, and generate strong linkages with existing industrial base. Our region has significant advantages in both capacity and cost efficiency. Thus, retaining green sectors and green jobs locally in the region while capturing international demand for green products and services offers a unique path to long-term sustained economic growth for the region. 3. Empower people for technological shifts to capture future sources of productivity growth. Governments can provide strategic support for job-rich emerging sectors and the adoption of labor-complementing technologies. Helping people adapt to emerging technological disruptions will also be important, as they often lack the capacity to proactively shape technological trends. 4, embrace inclusive economic cooperation for shared prosperity. Our region has a rich and successful history of mutually beneficial economic cooperation through trade, investment, and even technology transfers. Strengthening such regional cooperation has become even more vital as globalization and multilateral cooperation faces headwinds. Integrated regional markets and stable regional cooperation mechanisms could go a long way in enhancing long-term economic prosperity in the region. The committee is invited to review and discuss these policy ideas and share their own national experiences and visions on how to achieve sustained and balanced economic growth in the long term. We look forward to your feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Malik. Interesting insights, especially in the paper, and let's see how the committee responds to some of the suggestions that you have put forward. But before we start deliberations, there is an expert discussion, moderated expert discussion that is planned for this session. And this will also be moderated by Mr. Vachirin Sirimanitham, Chief of Macroeconomic Policy and Analysis Section. And it is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Sirimanitham Vachirin, along with the designated experts, to please come on the dais and participate in the discussions.
So thank you, Chair, and good to see all of you again today. So in this morning, we are extremely delighted to welcome to a very knowledgeable expert who will share their perspective on the policy option for the future of the economic growth in Asia and the Pacific. And we will start with expert on my right to introduce Mr. Marco Camilla, who is the UNIDO representative for the sub-regional office in Jakarta for Indonesia, Timor-Leste, and the Philippines. And the second speaker on my left, Mr. Adiyanto, who is the Director of the Regional Financing and Economics Affairs from the Ministry of Finance, Republic of Indonesia. Welcome, both, and thank you so much for joining us today. Before I ask you the questions, and kindly remind that we have a limited time, so kindly keep your remark and intervention for 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you. So maybe I start with Mr. Camilla. Across the world, you know there's the renewed interest in the industrial policy to revive productivity in certain economic sectors. But how is the current approach different of this industrial policy, different from the past? What should the economic policy maker in the region focus on? At the same time, what they need to be careful about? Thank you.
Thank you, moderator, and great pleasure to be part of this event. We think that the current approach must integrate industrial policy with the geonomics and also consider the geopolitics of large country frictions. We consider that a constructive way to think about industrial development in Asia Pacific is that US tariff and the shortening of supply chains are indeed an opportunity for Asia Pacific countries. And why do we say that? First, on production relocation. US tariff on Chinese goods push international firms to shift manufacturing to Southeast Asia, especially Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. So this relocation may support job creation and technology transfer between Asia-Pacific economies. Second, on export diversification, ASEAN and other neighbor countries can increase exports to the US by supplying products previously sourced from China. Large conglomerates in ASEAN can also establish joint ventures to invest in the US market. Third, although Chinese manufacturing dominance is overwhelming, we start to see technology transfer to other countries, from textiles to light manufacturing and to EV batteries. So we see this trend in Asia Pacific, Central Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So given this background, what are the implications for industrial policies? So we consider there are several, but I will mention three. One is on green industries. Treat green industrialization as a productivity tool, not just as a climate change policy. This applies to batteries, solar panels, EV, and low carbon materials. On artificial intelligence, that is also important factor, is treated as an assistant, not as a solution to everything. Apply digital transformation and AI for production processes, so productive integration of Southeast Asian countries is facilitated. And number three, on technology absorption, prepare the labor force to upgrade skills. So this is done with digital education and capacity building. So we see in many countries where we are working on with industrial parks, the investment is coming from overseas, but local companies are not able to absorb the technology or to provide the skills necessary to scale up the production at the local level. Thank you.
And thank you so much. With that, maybe I turn to Mr. Ardijanto. On a slightly different perspective, but from the policy maker perspective. You know that fiscal policy maker in the region, we are facing many challenges. Economic growth is slowing, but labor productivity is also slowing. At the same time, public debt distress is really high in certain countries. At the same time, they also need to help people affected by the climate events, and also to be prepared for the uncertain impact of the artificial intelligence on the future job and economic prospect. So the question is, in such circumstances, what can the finance ministry do to revive the productivity growth, while at the same time also handling other multiple challenges?
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us to speak in this important session, and I think it's an honor for us to deliver some ideas from Minister of Finance of Indonesia. I'd like to confess on the fiscal side. So the current global situation obviously poses challenges to in all governments, in particular government of Indonesia. So the first one on the revenue side. The governments, the Minister of Finance must ensure a stable revenue without undermining job creation and investment inflow. That's very crucial. The second one from expenditure side, how to make the expenditure side to be allocated in efficient and effective manner. So let me first on the revenue side. So the job creation and the investment inflow and also on the productivity is an important aspect that needs to be considered by all countries. So there are many policies actually has been discussed. I'd like to raise three important policies which has been implemented by Indonesia in this policy. The first one is the industry downstreaming. By downstreaming the industry, this does not only lead to higher revenue or maybe a more stable revenue for the government, but in the same time, it can enhance the new capacity for the workers in Indonesia. New technology is coming, and of course, the productivity will improve. So this is, I think, the benefit from what we can get from the industry downstreaming. The second one, from the revenue side, is we need to boost and enhance or to scale up the small business. I think this is very crucial. the small business, they need support from the government. And the small business can create new jobs for people. So the support for the small business is important, and actually at the same time, when they can grow, this can contribute better income, better revenue for the government. And the third one is the green infrastructure. Similar to Marco mentioned before, green investment is very crucial. New technology is there, but with the green investment infrastructure in particular, we can create more jobs, and in this case, also create the productivity and make a more stable revenue side. Because in the long term, the impact from the climate change, this will undermine national revenue. That's from the revenue side. From the expenditure side, so there are many policies actually, but I would like to emphasize two important policies which need to be integrated in the expenditure policies. The first one is the Asia-Pacific countries need to integrate climate-related disasters policy. So we can create a kind of financing resilience or fiscal resilience in facing the potential threat from the disaster. Everything we build, everything we have developed in the during the development process, everything will be washed away when we are not ready to face the disaster. So climate related disaster policies are very crucial to make sure that we can enhance the quality of life of people and also enhance the productivity. And the second policy is, which is also very, very crucial, is in this case, is to make sure that the government spending aims to lead a better digital literacy. So the education is not only how we can improve the quality of education at the basic level until the advanced level, but also the digital literacy is very, very crucial. And as you know, that the new technology will bring new language. It means new language is the new digital literacy, and all the labor level, all the workers need to master this digital literacy if they can compete in the labor field. So I think these two policies are very crucial at the moment, how the governments can face the next challenges in terms of the economic policy. And I think also one important point is how we can collaborate, how we can make a strong and more robust coordination among countries to support, and together we can face the current challenges and the next challenges. I think I stop here. Thank you.
I have one actually a follow-up question on the related matter. You mentioned a couple of government policies, the domestic government policy. In Charlie, like 1 minute, can you also highlight the role of the regional economic cooperation? How can the region, we can work together as the, not only for the government, but other development stakeholders, how we can help to push forward the policy that you have kindly mentioned?
I think everywhere, every country also needs more active and more robust support from the international agencies, including also the International Multilateral Development Agency, just like World Bank, ADB, and others. I think that is very, very crucial. So the ESCAP has also a very strategic role in how we can strengthen the cooperation among countries in not only facing the challenges, in the future challenges, but also how we can harmonize our policies, the tax policies, revenue policies, and then also, of course, the policies for the green policies in particular. I think this needs support from the international organization. So we are of view that no country can work alone, but every county need to work together to build a stronger cooperation. Yes, Pak.
Thank you so much. So I also have a follow-up question for you. Mr. Kamiya, I think in your remark, you mentioned about technological transfer, okay, and ability of the domestic player to absorb this technology. If we look more broadly, okay, innovation has been cited as a key for the country to become a high-income country. Okay, but if you look around the region, the domestic innovation capacity is still relatively low. Okay, so beyond the technological transfer, any insight on the policy to boost innovation and productivity in maybe 1 minute? Yeah.
Okay, but maybe in 15 seconds, I want to say something very important because Adrian, you mentioned. And the question is why we don't have an insurance against disasters. Because I think when we have these external shocks, sometimes places are just swept out of 10 years of efforts on growth. And this is something we have development banks, so we have countries, member states. So I think we should design a facility, an insurance against disaster, not just for Asia Pacific, but for the rest of the world. On innovation ecosystems, from UNIDO perspective, we emphasize that this, as much as possible, must be linked to manufacturing. Manufacturing is absolutely essential. So you can have startup and entrepreneurship. Of course, all countries have, particularly Asia Pacific. There are several very interesting initiatives. But startup and entrepreneurship by themselves are not going to increase long-term growth. So that's something that we have to consider. And so manufacturing is absolutely essential. So there is a very macro consideration by Joel Mokyr that got one of the Nobel Prize winners, that you have to integrate universities, entrepreneurs, business sector, and the government, so in order to increase productivity. But let me just mention a very concrete three concrete things that we can do in the region. One is create demand for upgrading. So I think public sector can design and can improve public procurement using ISO standards and other standards, so in order to push for productivity. The second is scale the middle, put supplier development and the factory audits at the center. And since we have several eco-industrial parks, this can be main entry point vehicle to do that. Yeah? And advance on mutual recognition of standards, RCEP at ASEAN level, so the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership is a great vehicle to share cross-border data and also to improve on system interoperability.
Thank you. Considering the time, I have one concluding question for both of you. If you want to convey your one message or one idea for the audience to take away from this session, who will be that? Maybe we can start with Alejandro first. In 1 minute.
1 minute. Yeah. All right. Thank you. So my concluding statement is I want to emphasize that the productivity is the key, but a robust fiscal policy is the enabler. So we need to have a robust fiscal policy. We need to have fiscal resilience. We need to have fiscal sufficiency. So, you know, when we can equip our budget, when in particular, just like in Indonesia, we are an island countries. We have 17,000 islands in Indonesia. So we need to ensure all the local governments have the capacity to face the challenges and to make a robust policy. And by that way, we need to ensure that they have sufficient or fiscal resilience to make a better policy and to anticipate the potential challenges or threat to the local governments, in particular in Indonesia. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
The main message for UNIDO will be that manufacturing is key. According to our statistics, so one job created in manufacturing creates 2.2 jobs, external jobs on services and even agriculture. The agriculture actually is not agriculture, it's manufacturing, no, it's processing. So I think it's important just to center all our efforts in Asia Pacific in order to improve, increase manufacturing, to reduce poverty, to drive innovation, and to support sustainable societies with inclusive growth.
Thank you so much. Would conclude the expert discussion. Also, thank you both Mr. Kamiya and then Argento again for your insight. We surely benefit the discussion that follow. So now I would like to give the floor back to our chair for the intervention and statement from our country member state. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kun Vacharin, Mr. Kunia, and Mr. Adianto, for those useful discussions to set the tone of our deliberations. So we shall now proceed with country statements. And first on our list is the Philippines, to be followed by China. Philippines.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, esteemed colleagues, it is an honor to address this distinguished assembly on behalf of the government of the Philippines. As we chart the future of economic growth in Asia and the Pacific, our shared challenge is to ensure that growth is robust, resilient, and inclusive. The Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028 midterm update provides valuable insights and strategies that reflect our national experiences and lessons learned over the past 3 years. First, strong macroeconomic fundamentals and a robust domestic economy provide a critical buffer against external shocks. Through prudent fiscal management, credible monetary policies, and strengthened financial systems, we are equipped to navigate geopolitical, environmental, and technological disruptions, safeguarding stability and preserving the gains of development. Second, diversification remains a cornerstone of resilience. The Philippines continues to broaden its growth drivers, diversify markets, and expand the range and quality of products and services produced by our firms. These measures enhance our capacity to absorb shocks while fostering innovation and higher value economic activity. Third, we recognize that transformation for all requires transformation by all. Partnerships and coordination across national and local governments, with the private sector, and with our international development partners are essential for achieving the country's development agenda. Furthermore, international cooperation and tailored support for developing countries, including middle-income countries, enable inclusive and sustainable development. Effective collaboration ensures that policies are coherent, targeted, and capable of producing meaningful outcomes for the people. We remain steadfast in our commitment to sound economic management, evidence-based policymaking, and strategic public investment. By focusing on high-impact areas, education, healthcare, infrastructure, digitalization, and green growth, we ensure that economic gains reach communities where they are needed most. We remain committed to an adaptive, data-driven, and fiscally responsible approach to policy, guided by a shared national commitment to long-term goals, bringing us closer to our vision of a matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay, a resilient, comfortable, and secure life for all Filipinos. The Philippines stands ready to work with all partners in the region to promote a dynamic, sustainable, and inclusive Asia-Pacific, where prosperity is shared and no community is left behind. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. The combination of the idea of resilience with comfort, that's interesting. We have China to be followed by Fiji, please. China.
谢谢主席。当前亚太经济发展面临的挑战与机遇并存。一方面，世界经济增长动能不足，单边主义、保护主义抬头，气候变化影响加剧，传统经济发展模式正面临挑战。另一方面，新一轮科技革命和产业变革深入演进，为开辟经济新增长点提供了机遇。中方注意到秘书处在此背景下提出了关于亚太地区未来经济增长的4点政策建议，具有一定参考价值。中方愿基于此，介绍“十五五”规划建议就中国未来5年经济社会发展所做出的顶层设计，希望能为各方提供政策参考。我们坚持有效市场和有为政府相结合，充分发挥市场在资源配置中的决定性作用，强化国家发展规划战略导向作用，坚持智能化、绿色化、融合化方向，优化提升传统产业，培育壮大新兴支柱产业和未来产业，打造新的经济增长点。我们加快推进经济社会发展全面绿色转型，以碳达峰、碳中和为牵引，协同推进降碳、减污、扩绿、增长，加快建设新型能源体系，推动形成绿色生产生活方式，积极发展绿色产业、循环经济，增强绿色发展动能。我们重视投资于人，深入实施就业优先战略，加强产业和就业协同，聚焦先进制造、现代服务等重点领域，健全终身职业技能培训制度，促进高质量充分就业，积极完善收入分配制度，推动教育提质扩容，健全社会保障体系，加大赋能民众。我们稳步扩大制度型开放，维护多边贸易体制，拓展国际循环，以开放促改革、促发展，积极对接国际高标准经贸规则，扩大自主开放，加快推进区域和双边贸易投资协定进程，扩大高标准自由贸易区网络，推动贸易创新发展，拓展双向投资合作空间。主席先生，中国是世界经济增长的主要贡献者，近年来对全球经济增长的贡献率稳定在30%左右。中国愿继续以自身的发展为各方提供机遇，为亚太乃至世界经济带来更多的稳定性和确定性。谢谢主席先生。
Thank you, China. We shall now hear from Fiji, to be followed by Vietnam.
Thank you, Chair. Fiji acknowledges the content of the document, particularly Section 4, which outlines the policy options for consideration. Reviving the developmental role of the state is indeed critical for accelerating sectoral upgrading and productivity growth. Fiji notes the 5 functions that the state will need to perform in order to revive its development role. These functions align with the key policy objectives and reforms Fiji has set out in its National Development Plan 2025-2029 and Vision 2050. To achieve the development objectives, Fiji have identified in the various economic sectors a key focus area of the plan is to strengthen the role of the state through government in spearheading structural reforms across critical economic sectors and in providing an enabling environment that is conducive for private sector growth and participation by setting sound legislations, regulations, and policies. The role of the government is an area that was considered carefully in the formulation of the plan. For small island developing economies like Fiji, Oftentimes, the government has taken a more regulatory approach to development. This approach has constrained and crowded out private sector investment, ultimately impacting economic growth. So in Fiji, there are a lot of areas that the public sector is involved in, which has significant economic implications. We've also had our fair share of experiences with our state-owned enterprises, commercial ventures, and targeted incentives. So while public investment is crucial for growth in the economy, the government of Fiji also recognizes the need to increase private sector participation and foster strategic partnerships on public-private investment. To this extent, Fiji's focus in the next 5 years is to rationalize the role of government and confine them to 4 key areas. This will be essential to reset the country's development pathway and shift the development approach of the state to one that is more facilitate and supportive of the private sector. The 4 key areas are reducing the size and role of government in the economy to avoid stifling private sector expansion, efficient public service facilitation of private sector activities, and investment through the removal of regulatory barriers, provision of quality public goods to the people based on well-planned and targeted public sector spending, and establishment of public and private partnerships where feasible to support growth. Mr. Chair, the policy options outlined in the document are acknowledged, and we look forward to the support of the forum in ensuring that the needs and circumstances of small island developing countries is well considered and in delivering contextualized assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiji. I think that's useful food for thought for ESCAP. I mean, a government making such a candid assessment of the private sector expansion situation. I mean, this is quite refreshing, actually. So we will hear from Vietnam. And if there are any other delegations that wish to take the floor, may please raise their flags. So Vietnam, please.
Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, Vietnam welcomes the forward-looking focus of this agenda item and thanks the Secretariat for its analytical work. Vietnam requests the Secretariat for continued efforts to identify policy options for resilient, inclusive, and sustainable long-term growth, with particular attention to the concerns and needs of the middle-income countries. Our region has benefited enormously from decades of rapid economic growth, yet we now face a very different landscape: lower global demand, heightened geopolitical uncertainty, climate change, population aging in some economies, and fast-moving digital revolution. Against this backdrop, the future of growth in Asia and the Pacific must be more resilient to shocks, more inclusive in sharing benefits, and more sustainable in environmental terms. As a dynamic middle-income country that is striving for double-digit growth, Vietnam is striving to transform its growth model. Our objective is to move from growth driven mainly by factor accumulation and low-cost advantages to growth driven by productivity, innovation, green and digital transformation, and high-quality human capital. Avoiding the middle-income trap is a central concern of our development strategy. From Vietnam's perspective, several policy priorities are critical for future growth. First, we need to continue structural transformation towards higher value-added manufacturing, modern services, and green industries, strengthening participation in regional and global value chains. Second, we must invest in quality infrastructure and connectivity, including digital infrastructure, while carefully managing fiscal space and debt sustainability. Third, we attach great importance to human capital and skills development, as well as adequate social protection, so that workers and communities are not left behind by technological change and structural shifts. Fourth, we believe that climate and environmental considerations must be embedded in our growth strategies. Climate action should be seen not as a cost, but also as a driver of new jobs, innovation, and competitiveness in green sectors. In the given context, Vietnam encouraged ESCAP, as reflected in draft's decision to, first, deepen policy research on growth strategies for middle-income countries, including pathways to escape the middle-income trap in a climate-constrained, digitalized global economy. Second, provide demand-driven technical assistance and policy advice on designing integrated strategies that combine resilience, inclusion, and sustainability. Promote regional platforms for dialogue and peer learning on industrial policy, innovation, green and digital transitions, and social inclusions. And, where appropriate, undertake country or sub-regional studies to identify concrete policy options and financing solutions tailored to national circumstances. Vietnam stands ready to engage actively in this work, including by sharing our experience, participating in regional dialogues, and exploring opportunities for pilot initiatives with ESCAP and interested partners. In conclusion, we reiterate our commitment to working with ESCAP and all member states to shape a future economic growth that is more resilient, more inclusive, and more sustainable for our region. I thank you.
Thank you, Vietnam. That's offer of pilot initiatives particularly is well noted. Any other delegation? Yes, Bangladesh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates. We thank the ESCAP Secretariat for the insightful background paper on the policy option for the future of economic growth in Asia and the Pacific. As a rapidly growing economy in transition, Bangladesh considers sustainable, inclusive, and resilient growth as a cornerstone of our long-term development vision, with the aim to transform into a knowledge-based, innovation-driven, and high-income country. Over the past decade, Bangladesh has maintained strong macroeconomic fundamentals with an average GDP growth of over 6%, driven by a dynamic manufacturing sector, expanding services, and robust domestic demand. This progress has been underpinned by sound fiscal management, cautious monetary policy, and an open trade regime that has fostered competitiveness and export diversification. However, we fully recognize the challenges identified in the Secretariat papers, slowing productivity growth, climate vulnerability, technological disruption, and global trade fragmentation. In this context, Bangladesh is pursuing a recalibrated development strategy aligned with the four broad priorities outlined by the ESCAP. Mr. Chair, first of all, we are reinvigorating the development role of the state to steer structural transformation. Through targeted industrial policies, we are promoting high-value manufacturing and services, nurturing entrepreneurship, and investing heavily in infrastructure and human capital development. The Bangladesh Investment Development Authority, BIDA, is facilitating labor-intensive industrial clusters, while public-private partnerships are being expanded to catalyze innovation and investment. Second, we are looking at the green transition as a potential new engine of growth. Bangladesh is focused on shifting from climate vulnerability to climate resilience and green competitiveness. We are investing in renewable energy, promoting green finance and circular and bioeconomy initiatives, and exploring opportunities in global green value chains. Bangladesh stands ready to work with partners to ensure that the green transition remains just, inclusive, and supported by adequate climate finance and technology transfer. Third, we are preparing our people for the future of work. The government is prioritizing startup ecosystem, STEM, integrated of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics through an interdisciplinary approach, education and vocational upskilling to harness the demographic advantage of our youth. The digitization is being integrated across governance, education, and industry to drive the productivity and innovation. Finally, we reaffirm the importance of inclusive regional cooperation. Bangladesh believes that the future of sustainable growth in Asia and the Pacific lies in deeper regional cooperation and integration through the trade facilitation, connectivity, technology share, and South-South cooperation. I thank you all.
Thank you, Bangladesh. Any other country statement? No further requests from the floor. Is there any international organization that may wish to take the floor under this agenda item? That also does not seem to be the case, so we shall move to other entities. And for this one as well, we would hear a youth voice from the Asian Institute of Technology. Please, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates and participants, my name is Sudeepa Pathak, speaking on the behalf of Asian Institute of Technology, AIT, as the youth representative. It's an honor to address this 5th session of Committee on Macroeconomic Policy and Financing for Development, and to present the perspectives and aspirations of young people across the region. As youth, we recognize that the Asia-Pacific region faces 2 development shifts. We stand at a vantage point facing unprecedented transformations in how we consume, create, and share technology. This, coupled with rising frequency of climate disasters, pose an inevitable challenge to the future livability of the region. Artificial intelligence, AI, is redefining productivity and expanding access to information, education, and healthcare. Yet, alongside its promise comes risks of job displacement, widening digital divides, and vulnerabilities to disinformation and cybercrime. Green growth offers a pathway to climate resilience, but energy transition faces challenges of affordability, security, and uneven regional capacities. Without strong policies, both AI innovation and green transitions risk deepening inequalities and marginalizing youth who are most affected by changing labor markets and climate pressures. To maximize benefits and minimize risks, AI should be treated as a global public good rather than concentrated in a few private hands. Governments must strengthen responsible AI governance, invest in digital skills, and support workers through transition policies aligned with evolving economic needs. As economies digitize and decarbonize, countries must work to build decentralized and empowering energy systems that enable communities to act as prosumers and support resilient, diverse energy mixes. Youth are at the center of these solutions. If engaged and taken seriously, we can advance responsible AI, promote renewable energy adoption, lead climate action, and if given the space, can advocate for and have a strong role in implementing the transparent, fair policies that reflect a future we aspire to create. The challenges we face today transcend national boundaries, and only bold, coordinated regional action with youth engagement can ensure that technological and environmental innovation delivers equity, resilience, and shared prosperity across the Asia-Pacific region. The moment is urgent. The opportunity is ours, so let's act. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Pathak. AI as a global public good, I think the youth should continue to raise their voice in support of that. I mean, that's an important point to make. And if I may say so, as a trustee board member of AIT, it's very good to see the Institute's participation in these deliberations, and we look forward to hearing more such voices in future meetings. Thank you. Great. Any further requests? Would the Secretariat like to make any comments about? Okay. So then we move to the decision point, the draft decision. Can we upload that? So again, just to remind you, the draft decision is also contained in document ESCAP/CMPF5/4. Okay, who starts? Japan?
Thank you for anticipating, Mr. Chair, because I was just about to raise my placard. So since this is a committee that is to respond to the outcomes of FFD4, as we have deliberated yesterday, we think that the language should also perhaps align with that. And so with that in mind, we suggest quoting to make it more inclusive, because I think, as Fiji had said, there are certainly other categories of countries that are certainly impacted and require some policy research. So quoting FFD4 outcome document, paragraph 61 and 63, I would say after the needs of, in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think needs of, fourth line there, after needs of, particularly countries in special situations and those facing specific challenges. And I think this, and I quote this because this is a passage that keeps repeating throughout the document, actually. It's the most quoted part, and I think that includes everyone, really, including the category that we also belong to. And then delete from after challenges to impertinent policy areas. And then after that, comma, on an as-needed basis within existing resources and mandates. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's noted. Can we have the entire text at one glance, please? Good.
And mandates. It says, and those facing specific challenges.
Needs of particularly countries in special situations and those facing specific challenges in pertinent policy areas on as needed basis within existing
On an as needed. Oh.
On an as needed basis. Okay. So that as needed, that replaces the idea of demand driven, which was useful. But there was also the idea of technical assistance and advisory services. But with the changes being proposed, I mean, we are just confining ESCAP's work to policy research. I'll just flag that point for consideration. Okay. Let's hear some comments. US?
Thank you, Chair. No immediate reaction to that. However, as you are excellent at anticipating changes, I'm sure you can anticipate ours. We would like to recommend or request removal of the adjectives inclusive and sustainable for reasons we've discussed many times here at ESCAP. But would, drawing from the language used by the Philippines in their remarks, would add perhaps the adjective robust ahead of resilient. So it would read policy research on achieving robust and resilient economic growth in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. That's well noted. The Philippines should be happy, although I'm not sure if the omission of middle-income country would make them very happy. But let's see. Anything else? Yes, Azerbaijan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just in terms of terminology, I mean, in terms of well-established practice language of ESCAP regarding the proposal of distinguished delegates of Japan, countries in special situation, as I understand, it's referred to small island developing states and landlocked developing countries. In ESCAP reports, we call it countries in special situation. As I see in report, it's country in special needs. Just to clarify for myself.
I would assume the former, countries in special situations, and I think the delegation of Japan was also referring to the Severe Compromiso, yes, the Severe Commitment Document, which uses this language.
Thank you. Because I have referred to some reports which regarding the needs, therefore I just for myself to clarify it. Thank you.
Yes,
anyway.
LDCs, LLDCs, and seeds in particular, right? Anyone else? Yes, China. I can't anticipate your points, but please surprise me.
Yeah, actually, I'm not supposed to make some comments, but since our U.S. colleague suggested to lead the inclusive and sustainable, I have to make intervention say that China would like to retain the words of the inclusive and sustainable, because okay, everyone knows that the goal is to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal, so we cannot omit sustainable here, and the main purpose of the 2030 agenda is leaving no one behind. That means we need to keep inclusive here. So China strongly suggests that we keep inclusive and sustainable in the context, in the text. Thank you.
Thank you. Well noted. Any other points? Yes, Vietnam.
Can you put Vietnam behind China? We would like to retain the word inclusive and sustainable.
That's been done. Any other points? Okay, let's try to clean up. Yes, the Philippines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like China and Vietnam, we'd also like to support the retention of inclusive and sustainable. We believe these are important qualifiers to put in reference to our development framework. We want to pursue economic, social, and environmental sustainability when it comes to our development. And as for the comments of the Japanese delegation, we'd like to retain middle-income countries, but we will also seek to consult our capital regarding Japan's proposed language here and try to come up with either an alternative language or another position soon. Thank you.
Thank you. But the soon has to be very soon, please. Good, that's reflected. Indonesia.
Yes, thank you, Chair. In this regard, I would like to just support the inclusion of inclusive and sustainable, as mentioned by our colleague from China, Vietnam, and Philippines. Thank you.
Noted. Do I see Bangladesh? Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. We also support inclusive and sustainable, which is supported by China, Vietnam, Philippines, and Indonesia. Thank you.
Noted, thanks. Philippines again? Okay, let's take a jab at the text. As I often do, let's start from the end. Any other better formulation for the words on a needed basis? It sounds a bit... Japan, do you have any other formulation for on an as-needed basis. If we borrow the text that was already there, I mean, in a demand-driven manner, something like that, maybe.
I think it should be within existing resources and mandates in that area, because it really leads to overload for the Secretariat, because you're really giving a carte blanche, right? I mean, we made it into inclusive text, but then the issue is constraints under UN 80 that we need to be mindful of.
It's there, I mean, it will be there. So within existing resources and mandates, let's start with that. Within existing resources and mandates, we are using this in other formulations. So I think, and I heard no objection to this, so let's retain that. On an ad-needed basis, anyone from the Secretariat, any alternative formulation?
Our colleagues from editorial actually have suggestions.
Yes, please.
Yes, Susanna, please go ahead with the suggestion.
Hello. I was just going to suggest just as needed and within existing resources and mandates. As needed and
Good.
within existing
You spoke my
resources.
mind, yes. As needed sounds better. Thank you to the editorial team. So let's clean that up. Okay. Particularly countries in special situations and those facing specific challenges. Again, this is borrowed from the FFD conference outcome document, as we are told. Let's see what the Philippines hears from Manila. Going back to my own point, I mean, are we missing out technical assistance and advisory services? I mean, would that affect the Secretariat's work in any way if we don't have this?
Given that we do provide work, it's important to keep it there.
After policy research altogether? Continue its policy research, technical assistance, and advisory services. Think about that. Middle-income countries, yes. Oh, sorry, Nepal, please.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, the phrase special situations seems a little bit vague. And if we borrow the sentence from this Sevilla commitment, para 9, it has a qualifier, such as special situation, the least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing state, as well as the specific challenges faced by middle-income countries and countries so on. So I think we can borrow the sentence from this document. Thank you.
Sorry, what was the last bit? Middle-income countries and?
Special situation, the least developed, comma, the least developed countries, comma, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing states, comma, as well as the specific challenges faced by middle-income countries and countries in conflict and post-conflict situation.
Okay.
Thank you.
You said it's para 9, right? Okay, we'll put the text later. Let's hear from Japan.
Well, so we did do a meticulous analysis of this document. The reason why I didn't quote that one is I could tell as a former negotiator that this was like a package deal as a paragraph. And after that sentence, there's a lot of comments on the specific buckets. And I think it kind of stands as a big paragraph. So that's why I refrained from quoting that one because I understood that that's what probably countries agreed on. The one that I proposed was kind of more inclusive because and those facing specific challenges include all of those actually. So just to let you know the rationale of why I selected the ones that were most, frequently cited.
Right. That's also a fair point. I mean, that formulation could imply that it covered all the concerned countries. But just the fact that in the original formulation, the words middle-income countries were there, and as you heard during various statements, I mean, there was a request for support from ESCAP to avoid or escape the middle-income trap and so forth. And lastly, as you are aware, this year's Commission session, there was also a resolution on the situation of middle-income countries. So probably from those considerations, at least some delegations would probably like to retain the reference to middle-income countries. But let's think about all this collectively. Okay. So while the Philippines and others are in consultation phase, please look into these alternatives that have come up. Okay, now on the question of robust, resilient, inclusive, and sustainable. US, you have heard the others.
Thank you, Chair. I can reiterate what I've said previously on our concerns with these terms. The United States notes that the term inclusive growth appears regularly in UN documents, but part of the problem with placing inclusive growth at the forefront of economic discussions is that the term itself is vaguely defined and applied freely to I used to have a little more flexibility on this term, but we don't really have that flexibility anymore. So we'll need to insist on the deletion of those terms. We also had some formulations that we've been able to make work in the past. We also have now no flexibility on those, so I don't have a backup to propose. So if those words were to remain, we would either have to dissociate from the decision or call a vote. Thank you.
How about sustainable? Can we keep sustainable?
Unfortunately not.
Okay, any other formulation that crops to mind? Okay, right. So we have to do something about this. Let's again try to look at the rest of the text. So about the specific country situations, particularly countries in special situations, LDCs, LLDCs, and seeds, as well as the specific challenges faced by middle-income countries and countries in conflict and post-conflict situations. Is there any other category that comes to mind? Japan?
Well, certainly developed countries isn't in there. But the paragraph is, how many lines? It's really, really long paragraphs that mentions many, many things. So that's why I just feel like we could be selecting there. But we have another, and those facing specific challenges. I mean, if people want a long sentence.
Let's try to live with that. I mean, we have heard, say, for example, Bangladesh as an LDC. Was that Kazakhstan that we heard Mongolia, sorry, as an LLDC, and Fiji as seeds. And of course, a number of middle-income countries that had spoken, not quite countries in conflict, but of course, post-conflict situations are very much there in the region. let's try to see if we can accommodate this. So if you can take out the brackets, yes, it makes the paragraph a bit long, but so we keep, and those facing, no, we don't need that part, no, yeah. Great. Yeah. Do you have any suggestions for that? Let's at least write technical assistance, probably continue its policy research and technical assistance on achieving, etc. Advisory services would probably include those two. Policy research and technical assistance should be good enough, I think. That's fine. Yeah, good. We are making some progress. So let's delete all that in the middle. This one as well. The middle income countries, Japan, Philippines, we can delete that. Right. Okay. Again, since this is my tendency, so let's try this. Robust, resilient, and sustainable economic growth. Let's delete inclusive and see if it works. So let's keep robust, resilient, and sustainable. Yes, China.
谢谢主席先生。就是我想就是关于 OK， 给大家点时间。OK, switch to Chinese, yeah. 就是首先我感谢我们的尼泊尔代表提出了就是关于这个对怎么说呢？就是关于什么内陆国、内陆小岛国等的一些定义。但是呢，我想强调一下的就是说 ，ESCAP 它传统以来是一个经济社会发展的讨论经济社会发展议题的论坛，没有引入过关于冲突的议题。所以我建议，是不是我们可以换一个词，不要写 country in conflict or post-conflict situations， 不要在这里面引入跟冲突有关的内容。谢谢。
Thank you, China. What I understand that this was actually part of a package that we had borrowed from kind of an agreed document, yes, the Sevilla commitment that we have heard about a number of times. But again, any strong views against taking out these words, countries in conflict and post-conflict situations? I do not see any major objection. Maybe we can take that out then. Okay, thank you. Constructive. Now coming back to this one, yes, the US.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and I appreciate, as always, your effort to broker consensus. Not an easy job these days, but I'll have to insist that we cannot support the inclusion of sustainable. I can go back and ask Washington, but I fear that the reaction will be worse that I asked because they know that I know the answer. So I'll have to insist there. Thank you.
But you can tell Washington that we are adding robust as well.
I'm quite certain Washington does not oppose robust, the concept of robust growth. They have concerns with the concept of sustainable growth, and it's
not about Washington's objection to robust. I mean, it's a fairly new idea that's being proposed on behalf of Washington, which we are
I'm happy to remove,
hopefully accommodating. So,
sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Apologies. I'm happy to. I put robust in as a nod to the Philippines and their remarks. I'm happy to remove robust. We can live with resilient economic growth in the long term, or resilient and long-term economic growth.
Okay. Yes, I think let's take out the word robust probably then. Let's start with that. Sorry, I'm not asking for the Philippines' comments about that because, but it seems like we are introducing a new qualifier which I'm not quite familiar with. So resilient and long-term economic growth? Not bad. Can we try that? Again, effort at consensus building, but let's hear from the others. Japan, sorry, you have been waiting.
So I thought we had retained in that laundry list and those facing specific challenges, but did we decide to remove that? So that's a more narrow area, but is that an intention? Because the one that I had introduced was a lot more, and those facing specific challenges kind of addresses, it's actually a more inclusive one than, in spite of the shortness, it was more inclusive than the one that's listed here. As well as those facing specific challenges, including maybe.
Yeah, good.
As well as.
But don't blame us for tweaking with the severe commitment language, but we can do that, yeah.
Well, we already did that with conflict. The reason why I avoided it was I knew this conflict thing would be mentioned here because we know that ECOSOC is not a peace and security body, so that's why we didn't select that one as a quote.
No, but you're spot on. So let's try that, as well as the specific challenges faced.
As well as those facing specific challenges is the paragraph 61 and 63 there.
Including middle-income countries, right, okay. As well as those facing specific challenges, including
yeah.
middle-income countries. So we delete face by.
And on the record, Japan.
And a comma after middle-income countries, yeah, maybe, yeah, okay. Yes, Japan.
And on the record, Japan does support the idea of inclusiveness and sustainable, but the idea of long-term economic growth, if it's for long-term economic growth, it has to be sustainable for long-term economic growth. So I just wanted to point out that that's probably one way forward.
Yes, I mean, I would send some approximation to the idea of sustainability here, but I mean, better experts would, of course, have their views on this. But let's, is China asking for the floor? Yes, please.
谢谢主席先生，给大家点时间戴上耳机。OK， 主席先生，我认为呢，中方还是坚持认为就是要保留 sustainable， 就是我们不能接受用 long term 来代替 sustainable，because 因为他们的意义不一样。另外呢，如果你看这个决定的第4段，已经有了okay, it's really very strange and long-term economic growth in the long term. Do you realize that it's very strange, right? If we keep long-term here, and then they'll be very redundant, and we think the sustainable and long-term, they are different words. They focus on different aspects. So we do not support that to substitute the sustainable with long-term. And in spirit compromise, we can accept deleting the inclusive so long as the sustainable is kept here. But if our US colleague cannot accept the retention of sustainable, then we insist that we restore the original text like inclusive and sustainable. Thank you.
Good. Very perceptive. Sorry, we were all being a bit myopic, I think. Yes, in the long term is very much there. Thanks for pointing that out. That's the problem of doing wordsmithing. We get stuck with particular words without taking the broader picture. Yeah, so US, can we take out and long term because it's actually there in the text? Yes, please take that out. Thank you. Thank you, China, for that. Yes, let's hear Japan quickly and then come to US. Japan?
So, actually, I was going to cite, let's delete that in the long term, because long-term economic growth is indeed an objective that most of our countries support. For any sort of, as an economist, I can tell you that for any long-term economic growth, it has to be, sustainable. We're just wondering whether achieving resilient, just to find a path forward so we don't need to be in a voting situation, achieving resilient and long-term economic growth for all, would that be acceptable for the United States?
Doesn't sound bad to me, but let's hear from the others. Yeah, the US? Sorry.
Yeah, I thank colleagues for the effort at flexibility and unfortunately cannot reciprocate in this instance. We can't live with sustainable. We could live, and I think my intention in mentioning long-term was that the second reference would be deleted. So achieving resilient and long-term economic growth would be acceptable, but I just don't have a lot of flexibility on this. And while we had used some flexibility to do for all in previous iterations, that's no longer an option for us. So it's the same challenge.
Okay, well noted. So I think we can streamline those facing, including, etc., please. And maybe keep the words resilient and sustainable, yeah, within brackets. So what Japan was proposing, I mean, resilient and long-term economic growth for all won't help. Okay. Any other innovative ideas? Yes? Philippines?
Mr. Chair, our delegations wanted to express support if that proposal of Japan was on the table to include for all, because for us, we still want to keep inclusive as a language here.
Okay. No, not inclusive. So the other formulation is resilient and sustainable. So instead of sustainable, long-term economic growth. Let's put that in, since we have heard two delegations speaking for that, we need to reflect that. Here, for all. And deleting in the long term, Japan and the Philippines, probably, yes. Okay, let's keep it like that. So we think about it for a while and then move on. Yes? Yes, the US?
Thank you, Chair. And again, appreciate your efforts to keep us moving. I just will clarify that if that is the language that stays, we will not be able to accept it. And I'll note that if you're following what's happening in New York in the second committee and elsewhere, we are calling votes on things like this more often than dissociating. I can't tell you that's my instruction, but I'm anticipating what the instruction might be. Thank you.
Message clear. Let's think about that for a while then. We'll come back to this decision a bit later. Let's take up the next agenda item. That's the order of the day, right?
Agenda 5.
So we shall now take up agenda item 5, report of activities of the consultative group on financing strategies for the Sustainable Development Goals. The committee document ESCAP/CMPF5/5 has been shared in advance to inform the deliberations of the topic. And again, request goes to Mr. Hamza Ali Malik, Director, Macroeconomic Policy and Financing for Development Division, to introduce the agenda item.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, as you may recall, this committee at its third session in 2021 established a consultative group on financing strategies for the Sustainable Development Goals. Its purpose is to enhance regular engagement between the Secretariat and government officials working on financing sustainable development issues and to align the relevant analytical policy advice and technical assistance work of the Secretariat with the priorities and needs of member states. The document ESCAP/CMPF5/5 outlines the main activities and issues discussed in the 9 meetings of the consultative group held so far since its inception. A detailed annex provides a list of member state representatives and a record of their attendance in 2024 and 2025. Further information on the work of the consultative group is available on the webpage of the Macroeconomic Policy and Financing for Development Division. In the document under consideration, we highlight that despite sustained engagement of the Secretariat with the consultative group, there is considerable room for improvement and identify several opportunities to enhance the effectiveness of the consultative group. For instance, in order to strengthen follow-up at the national level, signatories to the Sevilla Commitment in Para 65D encourage the appointment of national focal points for financing for development in the ministries of finance and other relevant ministries. In order to increase coherence and consistency in aligning national, regional, and global policy actions, in our understanding, it could be beneficial if the same individual or team were nominated to serve as both the national focal point and a consultative group member. However, it is the prerogative of member states. So if that is not feasible, then at a minimum, there needs to be good and effective coordination between the national focal point to be nominated by governments and the existing consultative group members at the country level. This would basically, again, in the same spirit, ensure continuity, improve internal coordination at the country level, and reinforce the role of the consultative group as a mechanism for collectively advancing financing for development follow-up in the region. The committee is invited to share and suggest ideas to enhance the effectiveness of the consultative group, keeping in view the Sevilla Commitment and the potential appointments of national focal points. The committee is also invited to share suggestions on how the Secretariat can better leverage the consultative group for multilateral and South-South cooperation on financing for development issues. We look forward to your feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Malik. The idea actually sounds sensible in principle, but then again, let's see how delegations respond to that. Okay. Can we have the list of speakers?
No, we have a quick chat with the consultative group members themselves.
Oh, okay, right.
I'll conduct that and we can stay.
Sure.
They're online.
Okay, right. Yes, so Mr. Malik would now moderate a discussion of the members of the consultative group on financing strategies for the Sustainable Development Goals. How would you plan to do that?
It's online. They're going to
It's
join.
online. Okay, great.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. We thought it's the best to hear directly from the couple of members of the consultative group who are here with us, joining online. So we are very happy to actually, very delighted to have two distinguished members of the consultative group on financing strategies for the Sustainable Development Goals, who can share their own experiences and ideas in our engagement so far. So we are joined by Mr. Emek Gunedin. He's the Deputy Directorate General of Public Finance, Ministry of Treasury and Finance, Turkey. And we're joined by Ms. Shashini Vithana, Assistant Director, Capital Market, Investment and Sustainable Financing Division, Department of External Resources, General Treasury, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Sri Lanka. So before I give the floor to our colleagues online, please I'll request them to limit their interventions to roughly about 4 minutes each for initial intervention, and then we may have a quick follow-up question, depending on the time. So our first speaker, Ms. Shashini Vithana, she represents the government of Sri Lanka and has participated actively in several meetings of the consultative group. Ms. Vithana, first of all, thank you very much for setting aside time and joining us today. Based on Sri Lanka's experience and engagement in the consultative group, what observations would you like to share on the effectiveness of the group? What are its salient weaknesses in your experience? What are its main strengths? And any suggestions from your side to improve the working of the group?
Thank you, Mr. Malik. I would like to make this an opportunity to make a statement on behalf of Sri Lanka. Distinguished Chair, Excellencies, and colleagues, it is an honor for Sri Lanka to share its perspectives on the effectiveness of the consultative group, drawing from our experience and active engagement over the past years. Sri Lanka has actively engaged in the consultative group through a range of initiatives that demonstrate both national commitment and collaboration with ESCAP. Following a ESCAP mission to assess technical assistance needs in the area of thematic bonds, ESCAP facilitated national level training on thematic bond issuances in Sri Lanka. This strengthened the technical capacities of our financial institutions and government officials, contributing to the development of innovative financing tools for sustainable development. This support was subsequently extended to the development of Sri Lanka's Green Bond Framework, with ESCAP and GTGI providing assistance in obtaining the second-party opinion. With ESCAP's support, Sri Lanka organized national policy dialogues in 2023 and 2024, creating important platforms for multi-stakeholder engagement involving government agencies, private sector representatives, and civil society. These dialogues enabled the discussion of varying views on pressing development challenges and the identification of avenues for domestic resource mobilization. Sri Lanka has also contributed to regional knowledge sharing and presented insights to discussions on persistent challenges. The most recent such contribution was on the implementation of SDG 17 in the South and Southwest Asia sub-region. During this discussion, Sri Lanka highlighted the practical obstacles, capacity gaps, and opportunities for enhanced cooperation. Additionally, ESCAP has extended invitation to consultative group members to participate in most of its hybrid format events, providing valuable opportunities for learning, knowledge enhancement, and capacity development at the national level through the consultative group. In terms of strengths, the consultative group provides a credible and inclusive platform for discussion, allowing member states to share experiences and challenges to identify regional priorities and mobilize technical support. The consultative group encourages peer engagement, supporting countries to identifying actionable strategies. However, certain challenges remain. We suggest using consultative group for enhanced coordination with national line ministries and ESCAP thematic divisions to improve the alignment of technical assistance with country-specific priorities. Specific areas of interest for Sri Lanka include trade, investment, transport, disaster risk reduction, energy, and statistics. To further enhance the effectiveness of the consultative group, Sri Lanka proposes further encouraging member-led initiatives such as peer learning missions, cross-country policy dialogues, and policy briefings. High-quality data collection and dissemination are of paramount importance. Therefore, we particularly emphasize policy briefings that are grounded in robust data analysis. Sri Lanka believes that with these refinements, the consultative group can further strengthen regional cooperation, enhance institutional capacities, and support the achievement of our collective development goals. Sri Lanka remains committed to continued active participation, constructive dialogue, and close collaboration with ESCAP and fellow member states to ensure the consultative group continues to deliver meaningful impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vathana, for very specific and detailed feedback and your observations. Let me now turn to our other speaker, Mr. Emek Guneden. And Mr. Guneden has been one of the most active members of the consultative group since its beginning. Mr. Guneden, given your long-standing engagement with the consultative group, how do you see its role and importance in promoting regional dialogue and peer learning on financing for development issues? How can we leverage it better for this purpose? And how can the consultative group support the regional follow-up to the Sevilla commitment?
Thank you, Mr. Malik. Hope you can hear me. Thank you, Chair, distinguished delegates, representatives of the member countries. First of all, it's an honor for me to join you today. So as an active member of our consultative group, I can say that our regular meetings have always been an excellent way of communicating with other colleagues from other jurisdictions. So we all know that these meetings allow us to recognize our shared challenges and also learn from each other's experiences and understand our differences, actually. As you all know, we live in a very diverse part of the world, and each of us faces unique constraints. And the global outlook is not very promising currently. So all of these continue to test actually the resilience of our economies. So under these circumstances, I personally think that ESCAP has a very crucial role in terms of providing, of course, a platform for us to enhance the policy dialogue and capacity building. So as you said, the clear question is how can we leverage this mechanism even better? And I do think there are two critical ways we can strengthen the impact of our consultative group. First, SDG implementation must remain a shared responsibility. No country, regardless of size or income level, I do think that can close the SDG financing gap. So regional cooperation is not optional, it's a necessity. We have to strengthen it. And to do that, our group can support this by fostering, for example, more technical exchanges on issues such as, for example, debt sustainability or local currency market development. Those areas, for example, are very developed, barely developed in the case of Turkey. Second, our consultative group, again, has a very unique position because it can translate this regional experience into concrete and usable approaches that may strengthen sustainable financing across the region. So if we can strengthen these dimensions, I do think that the group can make even greater contribution to regional coordination. And it will be, at the end of today, also in line with the Sevilla commitment. So to sum up, I would like to reiterate that cooperation, knowledge sharing, and trust are at the heart of our work. So with the engagement within the consultative group, I'm confident that our region can move together toward more resilient, sustainable, and inclusive development pathways. Of course, leaving no one behind. That's the motto of us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Guneden, again for very specific feedback and suggestions on how we can even engage further. And again, once again, thank you very much for remaining engaged throughout in the discussions in the last about 4 years now. I have one question. I'll ask the same question to both of you. So how do you think the consultative group can be strengthened, including through cooperation with the national focal points that are to be nominated from the governments as part of the severe commitment, in order to promote greater coordination, continuity between national, regional, and global financing and development processes? So let me turn to Mr. Gunedhan first, and then to Ms. Sashini afterwards.
Okay, thank you. As you have highlighted, one of the key recommendations of Sevilla meetings was for each of our governments to designate a national focal point for financing for development. And clearly, these focal points can really play a critical role in ensuring consistent engagement and facilitating the information flow. Some of us may think that, okay, we would like to strengthen the consultative group, but our aim is not about creating new structures, but about making better use of existing ones. That is understandable. But my take on that is that having a separate focal point rather than consultative group representatives like me, for example, would be much efficient. Of course, that's my idea, and we will see how our national nominations, come forward. So, however, at the end of the day, we have to support the effective nomination and empowerment of these focal points, that's for sure. How can we do it? Well, in our case, specifically in the case of Turkey, I do think that in order to leverage this mechanism more effectively, we could consider a few practical steps. Again, first, we should establish a regular channel of communication between the consultative group member and national focal points. So this could be, in the form of structured briefings or coordination meetings, etc. Second, we should also encourage focal points, bring national experiences, challenges, and innovations into the consultative group's work program. So I do think that these two will enrich peer learning and ensure that regional dialogue is grounded in real policy experiences. So by doing that, I do think we can enrich this platform and get the maximum of this communication between our countries. And at the end of the day, again, it will be fully consistent with the spirit of Sevilla commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gunedhan. Very specific, very clear. We respect your honest and frank feedback on that one. Ms. Vathana, quickly over to you. Just what are your thoughts on the same question?
Yes, so I prefer to have the consultative group member, either a consultative group member or the same division appointed as the focal point for FFD to have a better coordination for the achievement of the Sevilla commitment. I also think that with that we need to have a clarified mandate for the consultative group so that all the milestones on the Sevilla commitment is incorporated to the mandate of the consultative group as well. Why I prefer either the same individual or the same division to have this is to have a better coordination, and also because Sri Lanka doesn't come to the forums as a individual country to make statements, and we are given the opportunity, but when it comes to the regional level, we are actually relying on, even for 54, we discussed with ESCAP to have a common platform for all the countries. So it is much better that all the countries get together and there's a coordinated approach, because what Sri Lanka can do, or most of the countries can do at global level individually, is quite minimum. So we have to integrate, coordinate, and also I have to emphasize the importance of data repositories and filling data gaps. Without that, we won't be able to understand where we stand when it comes to achieving the Sevilla commitments. With all that, I I recommend the approach UNESCAP is suggesting strongly because of the limited voice and the limited opportunities we have as individual countries in global arenas.
Got it. Thank you so much, Ms. Vidhana. So 2 representatives, 2 different suggestions, and that's the whole idea. So let's hear more from our member states, and for that, let me hand you back to the chair. Thank you very much, colleagues, for joining us today. Really appreciate you setting aside time for this.
Thank you.
Right. From the committee as well, I mean, thanking both the members of the consultative group for their contributions. We are now supposed to move to country statements. Okay, so we have 2 delegations that are requesting for the floor. But before we do that, being conscious of the time, can I request the Secretariat colleagues to bring back the decision point from the previous agenda item, please?
When?
Sorry for belaboring that point, but while I was listening to the 2 experts, one thought came to mind, I mean, a formulation that I thought the US delegation could live with earlier. So we can perhaps try that. Right. Can we say, again, just a proposal, you don't have to react immediately, but resilient and long-term economic growth, leaving no one behind. You want to respond? Yes, the US?
I'd hate to keep everyone waiting with bated breath through lunch, but no, we cannot accept it. I appreciate again the efforts of the chair and other members, states, but on this one, the instruction is hard and the space is limited. Thank you.
Limited, but not impossible. I think
well, limited being
in some previous in some previous meetings we had worked around this kind of language.
We had, and that flexibility has since gone away. But again, I appreciate the effort.
Okay, Japan.
So I would like us to reach an agreement. So in the spirit of just tossing out some potential ideas, how about broad, resilient, and long-term?
Again?
Broad or broad-based.
Broad-based, then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would that be acceptable to the United States?
I'm skeptical. I think broad has a better chance than broad-based. But I can take it back, but I can't promise. I don't think we've looked at that formulation before. But I also don't know if it's acceptable to other countries.
Okay. Good. At least we could try. I mean, what I would request, I mean, please, concerned delegations, US, Japan, China, Vietnam, and others, please get together and discuss this during lunchtime. Yes, Nepal, any solution?
Thank you, Chair. And just to clarify, actually, I'm wondering where the discussions is a different one. Where is it going? I don't know. But I would like to clarify that the long-term economic growth and sustainable economic growth are different things, actually. We have an expert from the Secretariat. They can also clarify. The long-term economic growth itself does not care about the social and environment protection. But the sustainable development means sustainable economic growth, it addresses these social issues, environmental issues, like that. So how can I suggest is, if we keep a long-term economic growth, then we should have a qualifier, such as protecting environment or not depleting the resources and addressing the social and cultural concerns like that, I think. Because they are not the synonym. means the long term and sustainable are not synonym.
Thank you. No,
thank you.
that's well understood, and that's why we are deliberating on different formulations like for all, leaving no one behind, or broad-based, and etc. Thank you. So please, concerned delegations, please have some consultations. Yeah, okay, Japan and then the US.
I mean, if we go down that route, I mean, you can say things like ensuring resilience to shocks and delivering benefits across sectors and generations or something like that. But then you'll have a very, very long paragraph. Hence, we just said broad. But anyway, we can think about those types of verbiage as well.
Okay, that's an option. The US?
I'll just make a comment before, I presume we're going to break for lunch here soon, but you know, I think part of the challenge here is we do this a lot at ESCAP, is we debate these types of things. And I think in terms of the functionality of what is in this and what it's asking the Secretariat to do, while there are differences between long-term and the concept of long-term growth and sustainable growth, I think everyone agrees with that. The functionality of what we're asking them to do is not in question. It's entailed in the mandates that define the Secretariat's work outside and define the work of this committee. So I think my plea is mainly functional. We can go back and forth on this a lot, and we can honestly probably not find a way to bridge this gap. Or we can say, this is where we're at as a committee and move ahead, and where there is consensus. And quite frankly, the work that the Secretariat does at the direction of this decision is functionally equivalent. Thank you.
I tend to agree with part of that. I mean, it's the why we are perhaps struggling with the language is, I mean, it doesn't really concern the Secretariat's function. You are right about that. But I think it's a committee which is an intergovernmental body. And as an intergovernmental body, I mean, we feel attached to certain language and expressions that everybody would like to perhaps preserve and so forth, because we have to also, again, think of the long-term implications for the whole multilateral process in that regard. So I think that's where different delegations are coming from. But yes, the functionality point is something to keep in mind while you do your consultations. Right. Can I take 10 minutes from the interpreters just to hear the two statements from the country delegations? I think we have Russian Federation first and then followed by Azerbaijan. Going back to agenda item 5. Russian Federation, please.
Благодарю, господин председатель. В своем коротком выступлении российская делегация хотела бы поблагодарить секретариат за подготовку информативного отчета о работе консультативной группы по вопросам стратегии финансирования деятельности по достижению целей в области устойчивого развития. Вместе с тем обращаем внимание на представленные в докладе соображения по совершенствованию работы этого органа. А именно речь идет о пункте 13 документа, приуроченного к этому пункту повестки дня. Хотели бы подчеркнуть, что не можем согласиться в полном объеме с предлагаемыми секретариатом идеями и считаем, что они требуют дополнительной детальной проработки. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you. Well noted. Azerbaijan.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to address the fifth session of the committee, and I would like just to briefly highlight Azerbaijan's key progress in advancing 2030 agenda and strengthening financing for sustainable development. Azerbaijan adopted the SDG immediately after 2015 and integrated them into national planning, endorsing 70 goals, 88 targets, and 119 indicators. The National Coordination Council on Sustainable Development ensure policy coherence, monitoring, and institutional capacity building. We attach great importance to inclusive dialogue. Azerbaijan hosted major regional platforms such as Baku Forum on Sustainable Development and Baku Forum on Sustainable Finance and Investment. Together with UN country team, our SDG dialogue have since 2022 focused on green transformation, climate action, and future skills. Azerbaijan is the only country in our region to have presented 4 voluntary national reports, most recently in 2024. 8 comprehensive national SDG reports have been submitted to the President, underlining strong political ownership and transparency. When we're talking about the financing for development remains core priority for us. With UNDP support, Azerbaijan implemented an integrated and gender-responsive financing framework for non-oil economy, contributing to our VNR, Green Recovery Dialogue, and Financing Roadmap. We are now developing an SDG investor map with 12 institutions to identify investment opportunities and attract capitals. Well, responding to a global challenge where only between 15 and 17 of SDG targets are on the track, and the main reason of this, as we know, dear colleagues, is a limited financing resource. We have advanced our integrated national financing framework and SDG investment tool. Just notably, 82.3% of our consolidated budget expenditure are aligned with SDG goals, equivalent nearly 25% of our GDP. Of course, it was discussed yesterday, but environmental sustainability is central to our agenda. And in November 2024, Azerbaijan proudly hosted COP29, which reached an important agreement to scale up climate finance at least to 30 billion, usually and annually by 2035. Ladies and gentlemen, Azerbaijan remains committed to accelerating SDG implementation, strengthening financing frameworks, and deepening cooperation under ESCAP. We believe that only collective actions, innovative partnership, and sustainable financing will enable us to achieve 2030 agenda. We stand ready to work with all members of ESCAP and UN system to build a resilient and sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you, Azerbaijan. 300 billion, I hope, not 30 billion, but thank you for that outcome from Baku. Just to flag that there is also a decision point under this agenda item, which is contained in the corresponding document. We have heard different views on this, but was there any other request for the floor? Not quite. The US?
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to thank the Secretariat for this document, and in particular for the annex, which if you all had a chance to review the annex, you see the attendance at this group is kind of extremely limited. And so, one, I wanted to praise the Secretariat for its transparency in publishing this data, and request that it continue to do so. And to track this data, and I would actually expand that beyond just the Committee on Macroeconomic Policy to other ESCAP divisions as well. And just wanted to note my thanks for that, and at the same time my concern, because it seems like there are a very limited number of people participating in this. And so I think as we think through maybe not today, but the broader UN80 process and what reform looks like at ESCAP, I think looking at these committees and who's participating in them is an important exercise. And so I thank you for facilitating that.
Thank you. Since you mentioned that, let's take a look at the decision point. I think we can allow our interpreter colleagues to leave. Thank you for staying over time. But if we continue only in English, just to take a look at the decision point very quickly. Right. It doesn't seem to have much contentious language. Maybe the second sentence is something that delegations can look at. The Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, about the second part of the decision, we propose to delete it. To make me clear, we believe that we can talk about the different levels of participation as a focal points. So here we have an ongoing regional process, and I am uncertain whether the person appointed as a focal point at the national level will be able to participate in the work on the consultative group. Given that we already have the link to the appointment of the focal point at the first decision. So we should consider simply deleting this part and talk further only about the first part. But I do appreciate the proposal from the Secretariat that there should be like a connection or conversation between the national focal point on financing for development and the representative appointed to the consultative group here. Thank you.
Good point. I was wondering, instead of deleting it, since again, I mean, we heard some other delegations like Sri Lanka and others, could we add some nuance to this language? Like the committee also invites member states to consider nominating, something like that, rather than making it kind of very straightforward as such. Yes, Japan.
So just kind of echoing my comments from yesterday with regard to the true reality that because this involves issues like IFI reform, et cetera, that oftentimes these things tend better kind of driven from the specialists who are kind of located closer to some of those issues. So we don't really want to get a note verbal on appointing national focal points, just to be very specific. So in that sense, either delete the sentence or the other alternative is just delete member states to nominate. So the committee invites the same individual to serve blah, 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 so that functionally you get the same thing, whatever means that implies. So we're fine with the deletion, or otherwise just delete that portion.
That's also an option, yes. I mean, they can join the meeting if they're available, if they wish to. Invites, again, if it's invites, then probably the Secretariat would have to send a note verbal. Encourages, maybe?
I can explain the process.
Yeah. Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Chair. I think Japan raised this observation yesterday as well. So just to clarify, I think globally, DESA is leading this process of national focal points. They've been coordinating within the UN systems. So what we have done is we simply shared the existing membership of consultative group, which have been officially nominated by member states. That's it. DESA then will send a letter to all seats of government, I think Ministry of Finance in particular, inviting them to join, to nominate national focal points. So that's the process taking place globally. On our part, we'll simply try to share with them when they were asking us, so what kind of coordinations do you have on financing issues with your governments? And we have this body, consultative group already existing. So we're simply sharing the information there. I think in due course, the communication will be sent. I have informed or requested DESA to make sure they include all of you, all the permanent representatives of Asia and the Pacific when they communicate directly with the consultative group members of seats of government. So that's a process happening global level. All I'm trying to say is we are not initiating any of these nominations. Our interest is simply saying, make sure there is good either coordination between national focal points, whoever is nominated, and our consultative group members, so there's coherence, or the same person be there. From our point of view, it's not important. The important part is coordination on financing strategies at the national, regional, and global is important.
Okay, thank you. So let's try that again. The committee encourages national focal points on financing for development to, borrowing from what we just heard from Mr. Malik, maybe to say to coordinate with and join the consultative group. Maybe we can even add, if possible, to, comma, if possible, coordinate with and join the consultative group with a view to enhancing its effectiveness. Can you clean it up a little bit so that delegations can take a look? If possible, comma. delete member states to nominate, please. I think this has an effort to accommodate the different views we have heard, online and on-site. And since it perhaps serves the functionality purpose, can we all live with this? Yes, the US?
Thank you, Chair. As we did not join the Sevilla Commitment, we would request deletion of the reference to the Sevilla Commitment.
A sentence, right. So, in light of the Sevilla Commitment, member states to undertake efforts to I think that doesn't really affect us much, does it? No, we can take it out. Yeah, Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to talk about the wording which says, undertake efforts to strengthen the role of the consultative group. For us, it's not very clear what means to strengthen the role of the group. Will it have like more authority or something like that? We are not clear. So maybe, just maybe like a proposal, maybe we can delete this part and replace it with to enhance regional follow-up process through the consultative group as a regional platform. I will be more slow. Yeah, enhance the regional follow-up process through the consultative group as a regional platform for peer learning and dialogue, and to delete agenda setting.
That's good, actually.
I believe there is no clear point in the terms of reference about agenda setting, for the consultative group. Recommend the committee some points for the agenda, yes, but it's not about the agenda setting. Thank you.
I personally see no major problems, but let's hear from the others. The regional word is coming up twice, though. Enhance regional follow-up processes through the consultative group as a regional platform for. So maybe before platform, we can take out the word regional. Okay. I like the razor-sharp focus of the room. Good. Yes, Russian Federation, let's try to clean up and close this.
Yeah, just to note something, actually that's a regional platform, and we do agree that it's for Asia-Pacific region. And to be fair enough, in the first decision we have two words existing in the one sentence. So maybe we can leave with the regional here too. Thank you.
Yeah. Enhance, I really don't understand, but let's, okay. Yeah, maybe let's try that. Consultative group as a platform for peer learning and dialogue in the region. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So delete and agenda setting, etc. Maybe. Maybe we should have a including somewhere, no? Enhance regional follow-up processes, including through the consultative group, because you can't just enhance regional follow-up only through the consultative group. I mean, this is... Okay, let's munch over this over lunch, and we can all come back to the next session and try to clean up the text. We can clean up the second sentence, maybe. Let's clean up the second part. Any delegation wishes to take a bit more time on the first part? If no, let's clean it up then as well. Yes, the US?
I'm just not entirely sure what we're saying in that first sentence. It's a lot of text to say, encourages member states to enhance regional follow-up processes. It's not clear what follow-up processes to what. And I'm wondering if the sentence is necessary in this form. Like, what are we trying to tell the Secretariat or member states to do? So I walk out of here not really knowing with that first sentence.
Actually, the main message is contained in the second sentence, right? I mean, yes, please.
Yeah.
Simply, in simple terms.
In simple terms, we simply want consultative group members to engage in the severe follow-up process, which we will be part of. Otherwise, we'll keep working something on some issues with them separately, and then national focal point will be working something on separately. That's not the idea. So we have a body. They should be at a minimum aware of what's been going on. That's it.
But there was a question, I mean, regional follow-up processes to what?
I think it's regional follow-up process to Seville.
Which in our culture we say you can't take the names of your father-in-law, especially for brides. So you are not allowing us to take that name. I mean,
I mean, just myself looking at this report, I think the main goal should be to strengthen this group. If you look, I really would encourage people to look at the annex, because it makes very clear there's only several countries that attend with regularity, and often it's through the embassy. And I know that's not what the Secretariat wants, so maybe focusing on strengthening the group first might work.
enhance participation at the consultative group as a platform for peer learning and dialogue in the region, as simple as that. Because yes, I mean, I think I also commented about this yesterday, that participation is quite disappointing actually. Yeah, so let's write enhance participation in the let's keep it simple. And that's why the committee encourages national focal points for financing for development to, if possible, coordinate with and join the blah, 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 etc. Sorry, we are in informal mode, so I've also gone into that that mindset, so don't pay attention to everything I'm saying here. But right, can we live with this? Okay, think about it. We'll come back to it the next session. Thank you very much. So enjoy your lunch, and if there is any side event, any announcement?
Yes, there is one side event. Diana?
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, you're cordially invited to participate in the side event on green economic transformation in Asia Pacific, leveraging national and multilateral public bank, to be organized by UNCTAD and ESCAP from 12:30 to 13:30 in meeting room H. Thank you.
Thank you. This session is adjourned for now.